And now, on with the show.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
All right, should we get into this?
I think we should.
All right,
This
yeah,
should
let's
be
start.
Interesting. I just watched Chaos Walking last night, so it's pretty fresh.
Yeah, I finished it last night. It took me
2 nights, 3 nights.
2 nights, one morning. So I split it into 3 different viewing
It
sessions.
was only 2 hours.
It was only 2 hours. Hey, I watched Pufnstuf all in one go. So
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My wife was not happy with that choice, by the way. She was not impressed by any means. I'm like, you have no fond memories of Pufnstuf? She goes, I don't know what this is. I'm like, come on.
Well, we'll get into it. But watching that movie is a very different experience than watching a 20-minute Pufnstuf episode.
Yeah,
To
I
be
think
fair to her.
if I was a kid and I went to the movie theater, being a fan of Pufnstuf, I would have been a little disappointed because it really is just a remake of.
You know, if you look at different movies, TV shows turned into movies from that era, I think that's what studios thought the audiences were looking for, especially when you're using the same cast that was in
Right.
the TV. So you're not talking about a reboot like we do today,
No.
but you're talking about just transitioning from the TV
Yeah,
show
but-
to the movie. So we'll give
Yeah.
them what they want. Let's just do more of the same. Yeah, and
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
I think we could jump through Chaos Walking pretty
Yeah.
quick. Oh man. Well, welcome everybody.
Yes,
We're back
yes,
another
we're
week.
back.
Hopefully the weather is beautiful where you are, because it's been pretty nice here.
Yeah, it has.
I'm already sporting a nice tan.
In the great Atlantic Northeast rather than the
Yes.
Pacific Northwest.
That's right. So we do have some news. If you're not aware, we are talking Chaos Walking with Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley.
The meeting of 2 giant franchises, sort
Yeah,
of.
it's kind of, sort of. Then you throw in Mads Mikkelsen as well, so he's got some.
Yeah,
clout.
there's some heavy hitters in here. That's
Do we bring up Nick Jonas now, or do we?
yeah. I think that was more of a glorified cameo. I don't think his character never really amounted to much.
No, but there is one little fun tidbit that we'll get to with him. But and then we are pairing this up with 1970s HR Pufnstuf, which again, if you are not familiar with this show,
But again, a difference between the TV show and the movie. The movie is just called Pufnstuf, no HR.
no, that
So
is
what were they
interesting.
doing there?
I know. The tagline on the movie poster is Pufnstuf
Zaps the world.
zaps the world, and they use a review that says it's got a Wizard of Oz fantasy whimsicalness to it, but then in little tiny letters at the bottom of the poster, it's like that was a review for the TV show, not the movie.
But that's a quote from the trailer as well. That's the voiceover says that exact same thing.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, without the disclaimer.
Right, we're just gonna take it. So all right, so let's get some news, and then
Okay.
we'll get into our features.
Okay.
All right, Godzilla versus Kong seems to actually be making some money now. I know when we reviewed it, there was no talk whatsoever about expanding the MonsterVerse and anything moving forward, but according to some sources, Adam Wingard is in talks to come back for a potential sequel.
Good. And I'm glad that this is making money because, as you said, when we first started talking Godzilla versus Kong, and we reviewed it, it was doing well, but in the scope of the pandemic. So how well would it be doing in regular times? But it has now surpassed the box office of King of the Monsters.
Yeah, which is crazy. The rumor is that they're leaning more toward a Son of Kong. They can go anywhere with it. I would prefer an all-out monster battle.
I would as well. But this is, again, it's just rumors. It's not anything.
And you have to Wingard. I don't know if we even talked about this. That he's set to direct a Thundercats live action, which is in development, as well as he's attached with this sequel to Nick Cage and John Travolta, Face Off.
Yes.
Face Off, yes. There's a sequel that supposedly, at this point, their faces are already falling off. They're like 110 years old. I don't know if I would assume they're bringing them back again. How many times can you tear off your face and slap it on somebody else's?
I don't remember the end of Face Off. It's been so long since I've seen it.
That was John Woo, right? Was that
It was John Woo, yes.
We should talk about that because that's a gonzo off the
So charts. I don't even remember if the characters survive the end of Face Off.
I would have to say yes, somehow. I don't remember. I remember I did see it in the theater. 97, I think that was.
Yes. The one thing I do remember is Nicolas Cage dressed as a priest in the beginning and escaping in a plane and telling the pilot to fly, bitch. That's the only thing I remember.
That's your only takeaway?
Yeah. If they had a t-shirt that said fly, bitch, with Nicolas Cage's face, I'd probably buy it.
Oh, I might have to make one now.
Yeah.
So that's good news. I did read that Taika Waititi is set to play Blackbeard in an HBO Max series called Our Flag Means Death. I don't know anything about this. Just the fact that he's not only directing, but still acting. And this is a series, so he must be a recurring character.
And just as an actor, is this his own?
No, as far as I understand, he's not attached to it in any way, shape, or form as far as production goes.
Interesting. I'd watch it.
Yeah. Maybe he'll play him like Johnny Depp, drunk and disorderly.
Yeah, what rock star could he channel?
Right.
Keith Richards is already taken.
He has been taken.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go dig deep on that one. But Taika always comes to play, man. So we'll see what he brings to this. I don't have HBO Max, so I'll never watch it. Matter of fact, it popped up on my Facebook feed the other day. What is the likelihood? It's like a little survey, likelihood of you ever subscribing to HBO Max. And I didn't go never, but probably not likely.
What would it take for you if Wingard did this Thundercats live action and suddenly it was only available on HBO Max? Would that be the kicker?
No, I just asked for your password. Just for that one time only. I promised to never use it again, Jim. Yeah. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. We'll find out what my tipping point is.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on. Are you friends with Hugh Jackman? Do you follow him on Twitter?
No, I do not.
He posted this video the other day, and I just thought it was kind of funny, which is it's a New York City cop, and he comes up to Hugh Jackman, and Jackman starts videotaping this guy. Well, I guess that they had a back and forth before he started filming, and he felt that this cop was going to come up and give him a ticket for something, and basically this police officer wanted to send a message to Ryan Reynolds. So Hugh Jackman videotaped this police officer speaking directly to Ryan Reynolds that he needs to do everything in his power to get Hugh Jackman into Deadpool 3. And if he doesn't get it done, he's going to give him a ticket. And it was just like this silly little video. He's like, oh, it would be awesome. It would break all these records. You got to get this guy into your movie. And I'm like, that's how stuff gets done in Hollywood now.
Yeah.
Man
and
in
in the meantime, the cop has been fired,
Right. And his partner probably. But Deadpool 3 is in development. The script's being written by the I think it's a Wendy and Lizzie Molyneux from Bob's Burgers.
But it is an MCU project at this point.
Yeah.
Fully an MCU project.
So would you bring in Wolverine for a cameo? I mean, we did get that goofy little scene at the end of Deadpool 2.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they play this and how much they do incorporate it into the ongoing MCU storylines.
Right. So we'll see. I thought it was cute. So go check it out. Olympia Dukakis Obviously, she was an Oscar winner for Moonstruck, passed away, 89. And I think I looked her up on IMDb, and she's done just a ton of TV work over the years. But obviously, Steel Magnolias, Working Girl, Look Who's Talking, and the sequel, I think, Look Who's Talking Now. I just found it funny that she also was in Naked Gun 33 and a third. Kudos to her.
Yes.
She didn't take herself too seriously, but unfortunately, we lost her. This one's right up your alley, Jim, which is The Hollywood Reporter is stating that George A. Romero's swan song is officially in development. Twilight of the Dead.
Yes, I've seen this. I've seen this news bit.
Yes.
That he was writing the script when he passed, and it's finally being taken up again by his widow and the co-writer of the script.
Yeah, I guess they have a solid treatment in the beginning of the script. Yep, I can say 100% that George would be incredibly happy to see this continue. He wanted this to be his final stamp on the zombie genre. So I'm curious what kind of twist, because there's like, what, 6?
Yes,
Already?
although, and he directed Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and Land of the Dead. And those are the 4 official canon entries. But he did direct 2 more that are kind of like offshoots.
Oh,
Survival
okay.
of the Dead and Diary of the Dead. But the other 4 are canon, so this was going towards a certain conclusion. And I don't think he ever had the budget to really do the conclusion that he wanted justice, because he wanted the zombies to be domesticated and kind of survive and exist concurrently with humanity. And they figured that was the only way. Rather than beat them, why not join them? So
Twilight of the Dead would just be like zombie people go to the grocery store?
Well, it was a fascinating, because after he finished Dawn of the Dead, I read some kind of treatment for Day of the Dead, and he had to really change it because he didn't have the budget. But what he originally wanted to do was have zombies become not really domesticated, but trained. So there would be armies of zombies that were trained by humans to go and kill the untrained zombies. And it seemed like a fascinating idea, but he didn't have the budget to do it. So he had to really pare it down.
To happen there.
Yeah.
Interesting. The bigger question is, are you going to be zombie team Edward or zombie team Jacob?
Oh.
Sorry, I had to go down the Twilight joke.
Yeah, hopefully this is not a young adult's treatment of George's zombies.
You don't want to see sparkling zombies?
I always like the title Dusk of the Dead. If you're going to keep for that,
Dusk.
you know, the
you
dawn,
are running out of yeah.
If you're using D's, if you're using dawn, day, dusk.
Interesting. All right, we'll stay on top of that one, because obviously when it comes out, you're going to force me to watch it.
Of course.
Yeah,
of
exactly. And my final news item, if I said to you, greatest movie ever made, what would your initial response be?
Like that I think is, or that I think that the greater
I think more like globally,
is?
the greater good. That if someone said this is the pinnacle of filmmaking.
Citizen Kane.
Correct. Citizen Kane recently has lost its 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes after they found and added an 80-year-old negative review. So
an 80-year-old negative review.
80-year-old negative review has now dumped down Citizen Kane. So you want to know what number 1 is now?
What is it?
On Rotten Tomatoes? Paddington 2.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. So
their credibility is
yes, it is.
So,
yeah.
But who was the negative review? Was it like the Tuscaloosa Gazette or something? Who was it?
That's a good question. I don't know. The article that I found was basically, pointing out this is what's wrong with Rotten Tomatoes, and there are other movies up there that have 100% rating. 12 Angry Men, Robin Hood, Frankenstein, The Terminator, Toy Story. But they bring up Paddington 2 because it has the most reviews congregated for the score than the other movies. It makes a clickbait.
Is this a combination of official and just user reviews, or is it all official, publications?
I think it is an amalgam of reader or viewer and actual movie critics. But yeah, it is no longer considered. So there you go. Now our kids will be talking about Paddington 2 as the greatest movie ever made. Oh, well, Orson Welles is doing something right now. He's rolling over. Rosebud, you're replaced with marmalade. All right, that's all the news I have, unless you have anything.
I do not know.
I told you that was a lot of news.
We got through it though.
We did.
So Chaos Walking.
Chaos Walking, directed by Doug Liman, who we just talked about last week.
I almost exclaimed when I saw his name
exclaim. I said Liman.
Doug Liman. Yes. This was in his capable hands. He was helming this one. Now, are his hands as capable as they used to be? Is the question.
I was going to ask him. Because the interesting thing with this was filmed in 2017.
Had so many stops and starts. And the buzz on this was labeled as terrible before it was even shown to anyone.
But why was that?
Because of the reshoots and what have you, scuttlebutt, which
2 years later, reshoots. 2 years later.
Reason being, because we do, as we mentioned before, we have 2 franchises involved here in Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland. So the filming of their respective movies got in the way of reshoots. So yes, as from what I was looking at, I was looking at the same things you were, apparently, that this was filmed in 2017. Some sneak previews didn't go very well. Audience test scores were pretty low on this, so they figured that reshoots were needed, and they had to wait until their stars were available. So that's why it's taken so long.
That's bizarre. Yeah, I guess that Holland actually missed the Endgame premiere because of these reshoots. And the interesting thing too, which it's filmed in Montreal, Quebec, but I think the reshoots were in Atlanta.
Yeah, because it does have that very familiar Georgia logo come up at the very end of the credits.
But it's based on a book trilogy, The Knife of Never Letting Go, written by Patrick Ness.
That is a mouthful. Familiar? That is a mouthful.
I know.
That title.
That's a lot right there.
That's one that you have to read and question yourself. Did I say that correctly? Because it doesn't sound right, but it is.
Yeah. I am not familiar with this trilogy at all.
No.
Yeah. So I don't know how I don't know how true to the actual novel this is. Right.
So going into this, I was very skeptical because of all the bad press I'd read on it. I read that it was unwatchable at one point. I think back in 2019
yet we watched it for you.
That it was never going to be released because it was unwatchable. And of course, we've said this many, many times. If you go into a movie with no expectations or negative expectations, you're often surprised. And I was by this. I didn't find it unwatchable. I found it, dare I say, fascinating. The setup of what was going on here.
You're dropped into this world and you don't really know what's going on. And I think even when we talked about it last week, based on your limited knowledge, I had no idea. But just looking at the posters, we surmised that Tom Holland was an alien. Right? Is that what we were leaning toward? That he had some kind of super...
Now, we were basing this on the one sentence overview that you see on Amazon when you bring it up. And it said that Tom Holland is learning about the powers within himself and of his world. So it made it seem like he was off Earth, which he is in this film, and that he had some kind of ability within him, which he sort of does. So it's not lying. But we kind of, my mind jumped to the Matrix because it sounds exactly what the Matrix is trying to convey in a one sentence. But it's not like that at all, really.
No, it's not.
Just in a nutshell, this takes place in the year 2257. Settlers from Earth have found the new world far enough that generations pass in order to get to this planet.
Well, I think Daisy Ridley's character, at one point when we're introduced to her, she mentions that it takes 64 years to get from Earth to this planet.
She does.
Yeah, because you don't know. It looks like Earth. You've got, trees, you got horses, you got dogs. It starts with this quote accredited to an unknown New World settler. And you're like, all right, something catastrophic happened on Earth and now they're just kind of rebuilding their lives or whatever. But you see right away, he has this purple mist thing that kind of shows up around his head. And you realize it's his thoughts.
Yes, and I didn't write down the quote that was attributed to this settler,
I
but
did.
they call this the noise. So please,
Yes.
please share with
It
us what the
says
quote is.
the noise is a man's thoughts unfiltered, and without a filter, a man is just chaos walking. When you land on this planet, it gives you this ability. You no longer have a filter on your
Well,
thoughts.
yeah, well, you no longer have a filter, and everybody else can see your thoughts in a physical fashion around your head
Yes,
and hear them.
and it's weird because you're watching this unfold, and I'm like, first of all, if you were filming this movie, it must have been like a silent movie, because the first 10 minutes, it's all his inner thoughts. He's never, like, he's interacting with the dog, but he's not speaking to the dog. He's thinking to the dog, and apparently he can understand the dog.
And it's
he
not
can-
like ESP either. Anybody that's in his area can hear and see his thoughts, and
Yeah.
he can't control it.
He's talking to the dog. He's replaying memories. You see, like these things show up, and he can create projections. He walks into town, and everybody's just spewing. You have no filter.
This setup is what was fascinating to me, because that would be like torture. Because just think to yourself, all your thoughts are laid bare. There's
Yeah.
nothing hidden. And
No,
so
no, and
anything,
there's
if you think somebody is a jerk, they're gonna know that
Oh,
you
yeah.
think that they're
and
a jerk.
there was I think, was it the priest that he ran into in the woods? And as the priest is leaving on the horse, he says something like, I don't know what you're doing because no one believes in religion anymore. And then the guy stops and goes, oh crap, he heard me. It's like, of course he heard you. It's like, you just thought it. But if you're born with this ability, like, I understand, like you said, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but when the astronauts come down, Daisy Ridley, they go through this barrier, and immediately all their thoughts are just exploding inside the ship, and they don't know what's going on.
But we did not point out that this only happens to men.
Yes, this is the driving force of this whole storyline, is the fact that there are no women in this quote unquote settlement. And you find out, well, you're told by Mads Mikkelsen, who is the mayor, that the native aliens of this planet attacked them and killed all the women.
And so you think to yourself, ooh, maybe they're trying to negate them from repopulating.
Right.
This alien
'cause now
force.
you got these cockroaches that have now come down to your planet and are taking over. So sure, you put some spray down, you kill off the females, so now the males can't reproduce. Tom Holland's character, who is Todd Hewitt.
And you know this because in order to hide his thoughts from others, he repeatedly says, I am Todd Hewitt. I am Todd Hewitt. My name is Todd Hewitt. I am Todd Hewitt.
I know
So
who you are.
I will never forget that name now for the rest of my life.
What's his
I
name
think
again?
my name is Todd Hewitt at this
Todd
point.
Hewitt. I am Todd Hewitt. But again, if you're born with this ability, I think you would have again, if you just came to this planet and suddenly this happened to you, you would be like you would just lose your mind, because you'd be exposed to everyone else's thoughts. But if you're born there, you would never know a world where you didn't have this ability or this handicap.
This curse.
This
Yes.
curse. So I would think that you would have better blocking mechanisms in place to shut that stuff down.
Yeah, because you are correct, because it does seem like the people here in this story can't control it to the point where it seems like it's just happened to them, but that's not the
it's like
case at all.
Tourette's. Yeah. But meanwhile, they've been there for quite some time. Because and this is the other thing too, which is he makes mention of the fact that he has never seen a woman. And yet twice we have flashbacks with women in them that come from him, his mom being one of them. So which is it? Either you never saw a woman. So we're introduced to this whole group, and this is where the mayor's son is Nick Jonas. And the minute you see him on screen, you're like, that's Nick Jonas. I did read that he took 7 months to perfect that Southern accent.
Did he really?
7 months, really? For what? The 5 minutes he's on screen?
And Mads Mikkelsen, they don't even try anymore to explain why he has the accent that he does. He's
Right.
just in the movie. Just deal with it.
Right. So you're getting all this stuff, and then all of a sudden we're introduced to these astronauts. So then you're like, oh, so I guess we're not on Earth. And then they crash, and everybody dies except for Daisy Ridley. Nobody hears this thing crash. I mean, it's literally like 20 feet away from his.
It's a huge wreck. It would be like a meteor coming down.
Yeah.
2 miles out of the settlement.
Is the noise like so overpowering that you just didn't
that
hear
they couldn't
this.
hear it. So of course, our character Todd Hewitt, Tom Holland, is the one that discovers the wreckage, and he sees somebody running out of the wreckage. You can't really tell who it is just yet, whether it's male, female, and how would he know? Because he's never
He
seen a
wouldn't know,
female.
right?
But so he goes into town, And he's trying to mask the fact that he's seen a spaceship, but he can't. He does for like a second, and then he can't because all of a sudden it's in his mind, spaceship. And I'm thinking of the spaceship guy from the Lego movie, spaceship, because now everybody's thinking that.
Yeah, it's like hiccups. It's like everyone's bing, 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 bing. Everyone's getting it in their head. Oh man! And apparently she was there long enough to bury her fellow astronauts because the mayor actually said, I saw the graves, and I'm like, wait, how long has she been there? And she was sneaking in and stealing stuff. And
we do find out that the mayor, once he realizes that there is a spaceship, he's got nefarious plans for the spaceship and for Viola, who is the astronaut played by Daisy Ridley.
Blonde Daisy Ridley, by the way. Not sold on that wig. Apparently it worked for Todd Hewitt, though. He kept thinking multiple times, you got pretty hair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't listen to that.
And he has to apologize every time, right? Because now he's seen a woman for the very first time. And when she's hiding, Nick Jonas's character comes in, and you're like, all right, so this is the first time you've seen a woman in your entire life, and you know immediately that you're going to assault her. Like you've just felt that that's what he was going to do. But he just stole crap out of her bag.
We get the breakdown from the mayor of what he's planning on doing with her.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand this.
So what he wants to do is for her to communicate with her mothership, right? That's got 4,000 people on.
Yeah, because she says they're just a scout party. So there's a much bigger ship coming.
They know, obviously, that was a settlement there, but they were scouting to see, what their status was, if they were alive or dead and what have you. And then she was, or the crew was supposed to signal back to the mothership. So it was okay to come down. That's what I got from it. So the mayor realizes this, and he wants the mothership to come down, but he wants to ambush them and take their stuff.
This is what I didn't understand, because you got 4,000 people. You got maybe 12 people in your village.
How are you going to ambush 4,000 people, right?
Yeah, it made absolutely no sense to me whatsoever, the motivations of this guy. But you're right. She is not affected. They don't like the fact that they can't read her thoughts. This thing, whatever it is with the planet, does not affect women. So she can see everything that they're thinking, but they have no idea. And at one point, Todd Hewitt even says, why don't you walk in front of me? I don't know what you're going to do. You're going to hit me with a rock. She's like, why would I do that? You have the map in your head. He's like, oh, good point. I kind of like the chemistry between the two of them. I liked his relationship with his dog better, Manchi, who looked like Benji.
The characters of Peter Parker and Ray are very much innocents in their own respective franchises. You get a very childish kid type vibe from both of them. So you don't really buy them as romantic interests, maybe in a very chaste kind of a way. Tom Holland's character's never seen a woman before. So he's trying to work out in his head, and you hear his thoughts, what to make of her. So
go back to that, because again, 3/4 of the dialogue is all thought. It's not spoken. So on set, this had to have been really wild to try and film this. Is there so many offset, just dubbing his lines so he can react to it, and then he goes back later and has to come in and re-record all that stuff to overlap the video footage, and then she has to react to it. There's a lot going on, and it is pretty to look at.
The indigenous aliens, which they call the spackle. They're pretty well realized. It's very like Signs-esque, I thought. What the aliens look like, but that never really turns
one into anything. Yeah, because you're led to believe, you were told that these creatures, these aliens, killed all the women, and they encounter one, and he immediately is trying to bludgeon it to death, but it only has one arm. You're like, well, what's the story of that? Why does it only have one arm? Is it because of the fighting that you did with the humans? Who knows? It's never resolved. It's never, it goes nowhere. You just introduce to the alien, and then you let go.
And then you never hear them again or see them again.
No, so they're not a threat at all. Once again, humans, they're the real issue.
Todd Hewitt's character has two fathers, which is a pretty interesting setup, I thought. One of them played by Demian Bichir, who we just saw in Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yep.
So they tell him to go to a next colony over, Far Branch.
But don't tell them you're from this town, Prentice Town.
Yeah, they don't like us. That would not be a good idea to tell them.
That right there is telltale number one, that there are other settlements, but as human settlements, but they don't interact.
And even Todd Hewitt is like, what? There's another settlement? Yeah. Right. Here's the map, and this is where you got to go. But don't tell him you're from here, whatever you do.
And so what is Viola, the minute they get there, He's like, where'd they come from? He goes, oh, we came from Prentice Town.
But-
Lock them up.
And the interesting thing is that Far Branch has women.
Yeah, these people are very hostile towards Prentice Villians, Prentice Town people. We're getting ahead of ourselves in the sense that there was a nice chase scene where they think that they found her in the barn, and she finds the motorcycle, hot wires it, and they're chasing, and somehow he jumps on a horse and can catch up to the motorcycle. And then they have the
True.
spectacular fall off the side of a mountain. Horse breaks his leg. There was some serious horse action because another horse goes down in a waterfall, and I'm like, you better tell me at the end of this movie that no animals were harmed.
And this chase was very speeder bike-esque.
Oh yes, yes, through the woods. Yep.
Just the point of view from Daisy Ridley's character.
But there's a cute little scene where he goes into the water to catch a lunch for them, and he's fighting with this tentacled creature. Like, he just strips all his clothes off and jumps in, and she's just like sitting there staring at him. But
it's like the Sheena, Queen of the Jungle moment.
yeah.
Just poking holes in this, and it's so easy to do, and I'm not resistant to it myself. It would be impossible to keep a secret in this town. Yes. Because everybody can see your thoughts. So nobody has ever thought Far Branch before.
Apparently not. No. Or whenever so we find out that, the mayor's been lying all along. At what point does he, sit up there and he tells you, he goes, those aliens came and killed everybody. No, they didn't.
But he's not the only one that would know that. Everybody else would too, of a certain age. Yeah.
I mentioned it before that Todd, when in the very beginning of the movie, when Todd comes back into town, he's being berated by Nick Jonas's character, and he just goes, snake, 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 and he materializes this giant snake that goes after Jonas and then disappears. I'm like, that's a pretty cool ability.
Yes, that is true. That was almost like a Patronus from from Harry Potter.
And so at the end of the movie, when we see all these women, is that him manifesting this?
I assume so. But again, you go back to the point where how does he know what they all look like and who they were?
Yes. So long story short, Far Branch people basically tell them, no, Prentice killed all of the women because they were not affected, and he had no. Oh, and he also they found his mom's journal. That's was part of it, but he was never able to read.
So it took Viola to read it for him. The reveal is that all these members of the original town, on the orders of the preacher,
he's a little too fire and brimstone there. That guy. Oh, he was in what was he in? He was in Midnight Sky with George Clooney.
David Oyelowo.
Yeah,
playing the preacher here. I'm willing to overlook all the many inconsistencies in the plot just to appreciate what they were trying to do here. And you could think about the implications of this for a long time, which I did. I was awake thinking about this after watching it. Okay, the preacher is cracked, obviously. He is insane. Because the noise affects only the men, he holds it against the women. And he is going as far to say that the women don't show noise because this is proof that they don't have souls.
That was a pretty damning.
It was. And so this is the reason the preacher convinces the rest of the town that this is true.
But we're a civilized, we're talking about people in the future getting in spaceships and going to another planet, and yet you somehow are like, oh, women don't have souls. I knew it! Kill them all!
Like the men's thoughts are laid bare, but the women are secretive and somehow deceitful. Is this...
If anything, it's the other way around.
I know, but I'm thinking, for somebody to come up with this theory, and I don't want to put, ideas in the creator's mouth and the writer's mouth, but, I'm thinking, well, is this how they feel, or is this like an ironic comment on how others feel? Because this is heady stuff.
Yeah, it is. And it's like right down to her costume when she's got the orange jumpsuit on. I started to get Fifth Element vibes, and I went back a little bit to our review of that. And the enlightening of what was really going on with those two characters. And I kind of felt it was a little flip-flopped on this, that he's the innocent. I didn't know what to feel or care about these characters.
But it kind of, it saves itself because the other town that they encounter, Far Branch, has a female mayor, and the other Far Branchians are outraged that they've gone to these extremes and are willing to kill anyone that sets foot on Far Branch land. So it does redeem itself. It's not an anti-female film, so I don't want to paint it as such.
At all. No, it's not. Because obviously you realize that it's all from, Prentice is cultivating his own little village narrative. At one point when they're making their way, we did see the remnants of what was supposed to be a monorail system. So you get the impression that if other people had come sooner, that these towns or these settlements would be much more cohesive. You'd be able to go from one to the other, and that kind of thought process would not be able to survive.
Right.
But because
right.
they were isolated and cut off from each other, they just kind of took on their own morals or lack thereof, I guess.
And it should be noted that the other settlement, you only see one because you do hear of a third settlement called Haven, which the far branchians tell them that they now need to go to. They never make it to Haven. So we never see Haven because the end of the movie involves a mothership that brought the original settlers to the planet. So the final battle plays out in the ruins of this crashed mothership, not unlike the crashed Death Star from Rise of Skywalker.
Look at you. Yeah. To me, it had very Galactica vibes, the newer Galactica.
Correct.
But a ship that size with 4,000 plus people shouldn't be landing on a planet anyway. That's why you have shuttles.
And it seemed like the wreck of that ship was there for much longer than it was stated that it was there, because that seemed like it was like in the ground. So it seemed like it had been there for hundreds, thousands of years, maybe.
No, it was pretty overrun. And you can't hide. Like anywhere you hide, your thoughts give you away. The purple mist just, you can't contain it. No matter how hard he tried.
So it's a happy ending. Mads is defeated.
That was lame. Again, all these ghost women, just like in Rise of Skywalker. Let's bring all the Jedi ghosts.
It's noted more than once that he is the one out of his entire settlement that's able to control his noise the best. So the fact that he is scared by these noise ghosts is unbelievable. You know, he knows exactly what they are. They're not real.
Correct. Yeah. No, they're just manifestations of, they can't physically do you any harm. And yet they're able to push him off the precipice into the gullet of the ship.
He basically walks the plank because he's scared of these force ghosts, right?
It was I think they painted themselves into a corner. They didn't know how to get rid of this guy.
But the end, after he's dispatched, the end has the other mothership coming down because she has reached out to them. So it is hopeful that. And
this is only the second wave. So again, it seemed to have taken them a very long time to get their act together and get back out to these people.
And she sets the crazy preacher on fire at one point as well.
Yeah, he burned, but not before he killed Manchi. Which he drowned the dog, and that was the terrible scene. He stands there staring at Tom Holland while the dog is he's holding the dog under the water. This is like the most evil character in the movie is the preacher. Yes, no, you literally fire and brimstone. Anytime his thoughts came up, it was fire.
Like I said before, I had no expectations going into this, so I thought it was fun, you know, as a bad movie experience, but it had very lofty ideals going on.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And again, we don't know what the reshoots were. We don't know what the original storyline was. At what point, like, what was that original screening like? Where people were like, "This is so bad, we got to go back and add like another hour to it." I don't know.
In no means is it unwatchable.
No, but like I kept getting Love and Monsters vibes as well every now and again, and I would highly recommend that over this.
You see, I liked this better than Love and Monsters.
Did you really?
Yes.
Oh, good for you. Fair enough.
I don't even remember what I may prove myself wrong. I don't remember the buckets I gave Love and Monsters off the top of my head.
We do that a lot. It's like, this is so much better. And then you go back, you're like, wait, I gave that 3.5 stars.
But that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm giving this 3.5. I am giving this 3.5 stars.
Okay. Fair enough.
Buckets. I'm sorry. Buckets.
I know. We just bucked our own system. I am not going to go that high. I'm going to go 2 3/4. The missus watched it with me. And then I think 3/4 of the way through. Once you got past the, who's that girl? That girl, that's Leia's daughter. And I'm like, no. You're on the right track, but that's not.
So I was pleasantly surprised because obviously you know that Tom Holland's in it and Daisy Ridley's in it going into it, but I was pleasantly surprised at the level of the rest of the cast.
Yeah.
He's in it. He's in it too.
Yeah. No, I mean, I thought it was very well put together. I didn't see, again, with the reshoots, knowing about the reshoots, you know, the difference, because it was a 2-year difference. The one thing I read, which is they asked Tom Holland to grow facial hair, and that's what he came with. basically nothing.
Hmm.
But 2 years later, you go back and you film some of this stuff, you would think it would be a little more obvious, but I didn't catch any
No.
difference and whatnot. Like you said, I think the premise is there, very intriguing, and I'm curious what the other two books in the series, if they follow through. You go to Haven, now with this second wave, what happens with that?
And maybe they bring the spackle into it again.
Well, yeah. Don't tell me that there's aliens on this planet.
I was hoping that they would somehow factor into the final battle.
Yes. Yeah. What was the budget on this? Do you know?
It was $100 million.
Oofa.
And it only made 21. Of course, for COVID, but I can't see that with its negative buzz that it would have made a lot even in normal times.
Yeah. We paid $20 to see it.
Yeah.
Well, so there you go. Chaos walking indeed.
So let's go to the concession stand and get our fortifications for Pufnstuf.
I'm going to need some sugary beverages for this one.
Yes. Well, let's go and we'll be right back.
All right.
It's intermission time. Time for refreshment. During the next 10 minutes, you're invited to visit the refreshment stand, where you'll be greeted with fast, friendly service. You'll find hot dogs, juicy hamburgers, and mouth-watering delicious pizza. There are refreshing hot and cold beverages, ice-cold cola, and orange drink. Goes great with an order of crispy French fries. Then there's a wide selection of your favorite candies and other delicious snacks. And there's always a fresh batch of hot buttered popcorn to go with the rest of the show. So visit the refreshment stand now during this 10-minute intermission and add to your enjoyment of the movie. We're happy to have you with us tonight and hope you'll come back often.
Okay, we are back and we are talking about the 1970 film version of the Sid and Marty Krofft TV show, H.R. Pufnstuf.
Minus the HR.
Minus the HR. This is just called Pufnstuf.
Yeah. Do we know what the HR stands for?
No, because I didn't look that up.
I don't know if it really does stand for anything.
I don't know either. But we do know what Wilhelmina W. Witchiepoo, what the
that
W
is true.
stands
That
for.
is we were given that.
Yeah.
Yes. This is something else, man. This is you there's no way that you can tell me that Sid and Marty Krofft were not on drugs, because this stuff is off the charts. And as a kid, we ate it up. We loved this stuff.
Just the name, Pufnstuf.
HR Pufnstuf was gateway drug to all things Sid and Marty Krofft. Maybe Land of the Lost was the bigger draw on Saturday morning.
But no, for me, it was Pufnstuf, because in the early 80s, they had a show. It was almost like a highlight reel where every day they would show a different episode of a different Sid and Marty Krofft show after school every afternoon. And you never knew if it was going to be Pufnstuf, it was going to be Bugaloos, if it was the Lost Saucer.
Lidsville.
Far Out Space Nuts.
Yep.
Was another one. Lidsville, as you say, yes.
Sigmund and the Sea Monsters.
Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. And of course, Land of the Lost.
Yep.
But my favorite, hands down, was always H.R. Pufnstuf. I mean, you've got Witchiepoo. You got Billy Hayes as Witchiepoo, who terrified me. Even as a 10-year-old, she was terrifying.
I will say, in this, at one point, she turns into a human. She's Betsy or whatever, and she's scarier there than she is as Witchiepoo.
Betsy Bugaloo.
Betsy Bugaloo. There you go.
Foreshadowing of things to come.
Yep. So was this like their first? So if this came out in 70, that means that HR Pufnstuf was dropped probably like 68, 69.
69. So HR Pufnstuf, the show, was released the fall season of 1969, and I think only 17 episodes were produced.
Yep.
So the initial run,
that's all it took.
The initial run of the show was over in December, and from that point on, it was all reruns. For years and years and years and years.
Yep.
So the show did so well. It was on NBC, I believe. The show did so well on Saturday morning that they greenlit and they rush produced a film. And they started filming in January of 1970, and they got it out by the summer of 1970. They filmed the TV show during the summer of 1969. You can tell that Jimmy, played by Jack Wilde, is a little older here. Not by much, but he is a little older, so you do see some differences between his performance in the show and in the movie. And there's also little other subtle differences. For some reason, they give Pufnstuf a white cowboy hat in the movie, which he never has in
Which
the
is
TV show.
ill-fitting, by the way.
It's
Could he
tiny.
not find a hat? Like, he's actually, for a movie called Pufnstuf, he is such a background character.
I know
He has very little screen time here whatsoever.
It's really Witchiepoo's movie.
Yes, I mean, she's the first one, large and in charge. The minute this movie opens, she's breaking the fourth wall.
And she's addressing the kids in the theater.
Yeah, which I thought was really fun. Now, I'm sure somewhere along the line I have seen this because this is a musical.
I actually have the soundtrack.
I was going to ask you if they released this on LP. I know.
They did.
And there's some fun stuff in here. Listen, it's 70s. It's, right from the fonts in the opening song. Can you really run and play a flute at the same time, though? We get this whole backstory with the Jimmy, and he's a bit of a brat. Like, he's not a likable character.
Well, here's the thing. They set him up because he lives in America, and it looks like this is talking about the Pacific Northwest, as we were before, and there's some beautiful fall foliage going on. So you hear this opening song called If I Could, written by the songwriting team of Gimbel and Fox, and you know them because they've had a successful songwriting career. They wrote Killing Me Softly, I Got a Name, so they have some big songs under their belts. Yeah. But the one thing that you're missing right away in this is the iconic theme song of the show, Pufnstuf. You don't get that.
No, instead we get, he's running over hill and valley a la Sound of the Music.
He's late for school is the beginning of the movie, and he is specifically late for band practice. And he is the flutist in the band. And so he shows up, and all the kids make fun of him because he's English. And he explains that his father was sent here because his business firm transferred him from England. Because one of the kids makes fun of him. You're kicked out of jolly old England.
Right.
And even the teacher hates him.
Yeah, that was a little much.
She kicks him out of the band because he's late after he trips and his head goes through the bass drum.
Yeah. And yet that kid's playing it later.
He walks off dejected, licking his wounds after being kicked out of the band, and suddenly, inexplicably, he's in the forest and his flute comes alive. Goes from a normal silver flute to a gold, diamond-sparkled speaking flute by the name of Freddie. And he says, Freddie flute, fall out!
And then launches into another song. And Freddie, by the way, sounds like
And we were talking about having a drinking game last week of every time Jimmy says, terrific.
I'd be drunk right now.
But we could also do it every time Freddie says, I'm frightened, Jimmy.
Yeah.
So Freddie and Jimmy's existence is interrupted almost immediately because Jimmy goes down to the riverside or wherever he is and sees the same boat from the opening shot of
this was actually one of my favorite scenes in HR Pufnstuf is when that ship turns into the evil ship.
From what I'm seeing here, they're using actual footage from the opening of every TV show, and they've incorporated it here into the movie. And
you're just expanding upon what you see in every HR Pufnstuf episode. The opening song. So
the boat talks to Jimmy and says, hey, and it's got a big flag on it that says Living Island. And it's a very well designed boat.
Yes.
So it says, hey, Jimmy, come on, I'll take you for a ride. And he's like, oh, sure. So they get both Jimmy and Freddie get in the boat and off they sail. And this is a boat that is cursed by Witchiepoo, who senses the flute, and she wants to bring Freddie the flute to Living Island. And the boat becomes evil.
But we never understand, like everything in Living Island is alive. The trees are alive. The mushrooms are alive. So what is it about a flute that's suddenly alive? He has no special skills. He doesn't have any abilities. Why does she want him?
Well, he's diamond encrusted, right? Maybe, it's like going after that pop. It really is just a piece of vinyl, worthless plastic. But for some reason, your need for it elevates its worth. So maybe that's something to do with it.
I don't know. Her motivation's a little wonky.
But her motivation, speaking of that, she thinks that having this flute, and this is never explained in the TV show, will make her the
queen of the ball.
The queen of the ball, because they're having a witches convention. And if she brings this to the witches convention, she will be witch of the year. No
she's
problem.
a witch. Can't she just make one? Like, I felt that Pufnstuf's voice was off, but then again, it's been a while since I've seen
No,
this.
you are correct. His voice is different in the film than it is in the TV show, and I'm not even sure if it's the same guy voicing him in the movie than it is in the TV show.
Interesting. That's weird. And Orson, I thought, because she's got the two bungling, the vulture, and then the orange spider. Orson and I can't. What the hell is his name?
Seymour.
Seymour. And I thought Orson looked different, but again, it's been a while since I've seen this show.
But
so
no,
maybe
or
it
I
just
think
might-
Orson's voice is a little bit different on top of him looking different in the movie.
I
It
kept
is
waiting
in the
for
show.
Psycho Gorman to show up. He would have fit in this perfectly.
He would have.
Yes, but this is where we get, he washes up on shore because she's flying around in the vroom, which I always thought was a really cool thing. Like, how come they never made like action figures, like play sets?
That name Vroom Broom must have just been made up to torture Jack Wilde, who has a small speech impediment anyway. But to have him say "voom boom" cannot be easy.
No, I can't even say it. Vroom, vroom. Vroom, vroom. I just kept watching this going, this was a theatrical release.
So this is basically 3 or 4 episodes of the TV show glued together and made into a movie.
Yeah, like I said, if I was a kid of the show and I went to this movie, I probably would be disappointed because, again, you're not getting a lot of Pufnstuf. In the first 20 minutes is just a retelling of the opening of the show.
Yeah, as you said, just fleshed out, just a just a bit
with songs,
with lengthy songs, no less.
Yeah, there's a whole big dance sequence at one part there,
like "Welcome to Living Island," dancing, which they replay at the very end as well over the closing credits.
And I will tell you that female frog is so disturbing to me as a kid and now.
Judy Frog is her name.
Is that her name? Judy Frog. She's got the big red lips, but she's wearing like the Victoria.
Like the Liza Minnelli tux, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense because I thought Pufnstuf singing was dubbed. So
we were talking about how the differences between Pufnstuf's voice between the show and the movie. So he's even more backwoods, Southern accent, oh gosh,
hey,
oh
Jimmy.
shucks. Yeah. But as soon as he opens his mouth to sing, it's like Pavarotti. Welcome to Living Island.
Well, apparently, maybe that's just a dragon. It's a skill they have.
And what's funny is that during this Living Island dance number, the lyrics make a reference to the world, and they show the Universal logo again.
Yes, I'm like, wait a minute, did they just pull out the Universal logo? Like just that quick little that was really bizarre. And we have a female Pufnstuf.
Yes, and she is actually that's Pufnstuf's sister.
Surely.
And there are a couple of episodes of the show that feature her.
I don't remember that. Yes. But I do the mole, like when the mole shows up, I'm like, that's the Underminer from friggin' Incredibles.
Yes.
That's exactly what he looks like. And I said, he sounds like Scrappy Doo. And then I realized it's Don Mesnick. So
but that physically played by Billy Barty. Googie Gopher. Googie Gopher.
Googie or Goofy?
Googie. Maybe because of his googly eyes. Who knows?
Okay.
I don't know.
And that's we talked last week about losing Felix Silla. He plays the polka dot horse. I don't know if he plays the front end or the back end, but he is in there.
So yeah, you do have all your characters that you see on the show are here. They're represented here.
Clang and Clang.
Dr. Blinky, the owl.
Okay. For a character named Dr. Blinky, he never blinks.
No, he does not blink. But one of my favorite things about the show was his sneezing house, and they do have the sneezing house.
Yes, the house. There must be a draft in that house.
And the West Wind is represented with John.
Yeah, I'm sure that John
voice.
Wayne's legacy is very proud of that one.
Yeah. Jimmy escapes the clutches, literally, of the evil boat because it grows hands that get a bit grabby and fresh on Jimmy. So he leaps into the water with Freddy.
They were trying to grab my flute.
And Pufnstuf, just like in the opening of the TV show, via telescope, sees what's happening. And so they help Jimmy to escape from Witchiepoo. And there's a very nice dissolve where you see Jimmy wash up on the shore of Living Island, and it's an outdoor set. And as they walk through there's a dissolve that brings them outdoors to indoors. And if you're not looking for it, it's very seamlessly done. So there's some nice set pieces here. But yes, so Witchiepoo turns herself into Betsy Bugaloo, who is a complete hippie, right off of Woodstock character who fashions herself as a dance instructor. So yeah, as you said, it's the real Billy Hayes with a blonde wig.
Right.
With the same Witchiepoo eye makeup and lip makeup.
Yeah.
And she's more disturbing here
Yes.
as she is as Witchiepoo.
Yeah. And I think it was a Pufnstuf. He says, "Oh, well, the only way she can get in is if I let her in." But then she forces her way in. You didn't let her in. But she gets in and she grabs Freddy. Jimmy's like, "Why would you care? You've only had this flute. You've known him for 10 minutes. Why would you care?"
That's the only friend he's got in the world.
Apparently,
is that fruit? Is
yes.
that fruit? Is that flute?
But we also were introduced to Mama Cass,
which is
right?
What is her name in this? Witch Hazel. That's
Witch
her
Hazel.
name.
Yes.
Witch Hazel.
And she has a song.
She does.
She shows up in the Scooby-Doo mysteries.
Does she? She does.
Yeah, there's an episode with Mama Cass.
There is. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Cass Elliot. Yeah. Apparently, she was the neighbor.
Yes.
Of Sid Croft.
Literally,
she lived next door to
Croft.
Sid Croft.
There you go.
So she was his next door neighbor, and he invited her to play a part, which she did.
Do you know who else was invited to play a part?
I think Davis. I do. Betty
Davis was asked to play the boss witch, and she immediately hung up on them. Rightfully so.
So the witch gets the flute, they get it back. She gets it again, they get it back. She gets the flute. During one sequence, the first time she gets the flute, they concoct a plan to disguise themselves as firemen and make the witch think that the castle is on fire.
Yeah, so not only is Pufnstuf the mayor, but he's also the fire chief.
Yeah, he's a jack of all trades here on
burning
Living
the
Island.
candle at both ends there.
The idea is to get Googie Gopher to bag smoke and burrow his way into the castle's basement to let the smoke out to make the witch think that the castle is on fire. And it's one of my favorite lines in the movie. The castle itself is talking to the gopher because there's faces in the columns of the basement in this castle. And so the gopher comes up and he asks the columns, "Is this the witch's castle? It ain't Disneyland."
And there was a lot of smoke in that little garbage bag. By the way.
There was.
It just kept pumping out.
So as the film goes on, we realize that Boss Witch, played by Martha Ray,
yes,
who later becomes Bonita Bazaar in the Bugaloos, Boss Witch wants to have the witches' convention at Witchiepoo's castle because she's heard over the grapevine via Mama Cass, Witch Hazel, that Witchiepoo has the diamond-encrusted flute. And so Witchiepoo panics because at this point, the firemen have come and taken Freddy away from her. So she gets her hands on the flute again. And the last half hour, 40 minutes of the movie is centered around this witches' convention taking place.
There's a lot of witches going on here.
There's a lot of witches going on here.
This would have really turned me off as a little kid.
So you say that Pufnstuf, is not featured in this a lot because most of the movie he is captured and has an apple in his mouth, burning over a spit in the
I would
castle.
like to know for future reference, a 400-pound dragon at 370 degrees, how long would it cook to get medium rare? Yeah, he's just on the spit going round and round. That guy in that suit must have been really questioning his...
So as you said, there's the end of this is full of witches, and some of them are more disturbing than Witchiepoo is.
Yes.
And Jimmy himself dons a witch's outfit.
Did not see that coming.
No.
Jimmy in drag.
And because he has a British accent, and because this was filmed at the dawn of the decade, he calls himself Witch Beetle. And when you watch the subtitles, which I did, of course, it is spelled Beatle, Witch Beetle. Yes.
There you go.
And so, of course, he is discovered, and then we learn the tidbit that witches' kryptonite are angels. So then the Living Island gang disguise themselves as angels and infiltrate the witches' convention yet again, and manage to get their hands on Freddy.
They pulled those costumes together pretty quick. So kudos to the props department on that one. And there's like 5 songs in there. It just launches from a song to a song.
And one of the songs is Zap the World. In some circles, this movie is known as Pufnstuf Zaps the World.
We should have just paired this up with Zapped at Scott Baio.
Yeah, maybe we should have. We
should have.
So the end of the movie has all the witches evacuate the castle because they think that these are real angels, and they all realize that the flute has been taken, so they all abandon poor Witchiepoo. And at the end, she makes one last ditch effort to nab Freddy on her vroom broom. Orson drops the bomb in his sidecar that they're about to drop on Pufnstuf and his minions, and they explode the vroom broom. Witchiepoo is defeated, but Jimmy never gets off Living Island in this movie or in the TV show.
No, so, just like Gilligan's Island, he's trapped there
just
forever.
like Gilligan's Island. And so at the end, we do get probably one of the earliest post-credit Easter egg sequences that there maybe is in film. Witchiepoo comes back after the credits roll and says, "The good guys won this time, but I'll be back," and points again at the...
No, she won't. No, she won't.
Whoa, there was never, ever a sequel.
I wonder what kid sat through the credits. No one ever sat through credits back then.
No.
You know? Yeah, no. And that's too bad. Because you said what would have been really cool is if they pulled like a whole Jurassic Park, and as opposed to Jimmy getting off the island, all the living creatures get off the island.
Yes.
In real world.
But it's really a head scratcher, because if the show did so well,
right,
and so well that they made a movie out of it, why was there no season 2 of Pufnstuf?
And this was the only theatrical Sid and Marty Krofft property.
Until we get to the Will Ferrell Land of the Lost.
Well, yeah, we're not counting that. That was a reboot. It had nothing to do with it.
But here's the thing. This is fascinating to me as well. It almost wasn't the only Sid and Marty Krofft film property. The next year, the Bugaloos did not as well as Pufnstuf, but it was popular, and they had their own soundtrack album out, the whole 9 yards. And there were plans to make a season 2 of the Bugaloos and a feature film. But because of a miscommunication with the cast, they thought that the show had ended. They all went back to England because they were all English actors. And at that point, the opportunity was lost. Why? Why can't you fly him back? Hey, we want to make a movie. Just come back.
Where you going? Where you going? We got another season.
No, they left. It's no use now.
Listen, they're on a plane. There's no way we're getting them back now.
It's not like they went to Mars. They just...
That's pretty bizarre. I was never a big Bugaloos fan, but yeah, dude, at that point, they probably just wanted to be the Archies. They're just banging out.
I appreciate them more now.
I'd have to watch them again, I guess.
It was all centered around this rock band that were really bugs, sprites that lived in this, in this garden. And Bonita Bazaar was the hopeful. She wanted to be a pop star, so she always was trying to get the Bugaloos or capture the Bugaloos to play backup on her records. And her headquarters was like a giant jukebox, and her 2 minions, their name was Woofer and Tweeter. So
that's great.
As an adult watching this, I appreciate the Bugaloos a lot more than I did as a kid.
That's pretty funny. I always dug Lidsville, but then again, I just like Charles Nelson Riley.
Lidsville was too much. That was really
so off the charts. But really Billy Hayes was in that as well, right?
She was she was the genie. She was the genie in Lidsville, because Charles Nelson Riley's character, what was his name?
I don't remember, but he just flew a hat.
He was like a green egghead kind of a guy. Yeah. And he kept Billy Hayes' genie character as prisoner.
Yeah. Good family fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, what about that Sid and Marty Krofft park that existed for like...
Yes, we talked about this a few
and I forgot
many episodes back.
Research to
it was in Georgia. I believe it was in Atlanta, where it was in a building. It was in a skyscraper in Atlanta. So the different floors of this building had different lands of this,
which would have been
awesome.
Park. I would have loved to go on to Living Island.
I think that there was a Pufnstuf level. I think that there was a Lidsville level. This was before Land of the Lost. I don't know if there was a Land of the Lost level, but there were references to all the Sid and Marty Krofft shows that were out at that time. The place lasted 6 months because of low attendance. Nobody wanted to go. But just the fact that it was like an amusement park in a building is fascinating to me. And it had rides. It had it had different stuff going on.
Well, it's probably no different than the Mall of Americas.
True.
Amusement park.
This is true, yeah, but it was before its time. It's before its time.
No, that's true.
Anybody that's just as fascinated by this subject, go online. You can actually see the guide map and see what was on the various levels of, what was handed to you as you entered the Sid and Marty Krofft amusement park.
Oh, there's a whole video. There's a video on YouTube. It's like a 12-minute video.
Oh, there is?
I'm going to have to watch that after the fact.
And I think that you remember how the before the new TV season used to start, there'd
You'd
always
get
be
the
like a special on
Friday
NBC
night.
or
Yeah.
ABC or CBS telling you what the new kid shows were going to be coming
I
up
think
that
we looked
season.
forward to that more than we did the
We
actual
did,
shows.
we did. And I think one of those shows they broadcast from the Sid and Marty Krofft theme park.
There was a lot of stuff going on back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course, you know, this goes without saying, but the movie was financed by Kellogg's.
Was there any product placement in there?
Just as it sponsored the TV show. I don't think that there was product placement.
And I also did not do my due diligence on this one, but I'm now going to bring it up. What's the hubbub with the McDonald's lawsuit?
Pufnstuf, Sid and Marty Krofft came first.
Okay.
Right? So Pufnstuf was a big hit, and then a few years later, suddenly you started seeing McDonaldland commercials with characters that seemed very similar.
Mayor McCheese.
Mayor McCheese.
The fact that he was the mayor, I didn't even know.
Yes,
They're
with
both
a
mayors.
sash.
They both have the sash. Giant
And
heads.
Adding insult to injury, a lot of the puppeteers that worked on Pufnstuf worked on these McDonaldland commercials.
Sure. Go right to the source.
So you couldn't deny it, right? So Pufnstuf or Sid and Marty Krofft took McDonald's to court and they won. So that's why I think that you never really saw those characters out of the 70s. Like
that's too bad, because I loved those. I mean, that was completely, you were marketing directly to kids.
Yeah.
And they did have action figures. I remember having Grimace.
And the glasses too.
Yep,
you know,
the cartoons,
Yep.
And those commercials, the Hamburglar, everyone knows, you know, obviously Ronald McDonald, Fry Guys.
The Fry Guys,
Fry Guys.
And I remember, you know, the early Happy Meals really featured those characters as well.
No, that was spot on, child.
And remember the cookies that you would get in the Happy Meal?
Yes, and they were shaped like the characters.
The characters.
They were shaped like the characters. Yeah. Oh, that was the good old days.
Yeah, they were.
The Happy Meals.
Those
Happy
innocent,
Meals.
those innocent bygone days.
Yep. Good thing I didn't know about the lawsuit when I was a kid. I'm like,
I know.
Pufnstuf.
Now, how much do you think Jimmy / Jack Wilde looks like Anya Stark in this movie?
I don't know, but at one point, I'm pretty sure the Cass Elliot looked like Danny DeVito, but that's pretty spot on.
Terrific.
Did he really do anything beyond this? Not really. Huh?
He was an extra in Robin Hood, in Kevin Costner's Robin Hood. He was one of the merry men.
What?
Yes.
I did not know that. Really? Yeah, but that's like a 30-year stretch between
yeah.
A 20.
But no, the problem was he got older because
I guess a lot of these kid actors, that's what happens.
Here's a fun fact. I found something on YouTube once. I don't know what I was looking for, but this popped up. It was and hopefully it's still out there if you want to look for it. It was a Pufnstuf live show. It was kind of like, you know, Looney Tunes on Ice, that kind of a thing. There was a touring Pufnstuf show that also featured the Brady kids from the Brady Bunch. And this is,
that's
I think,
a double bill right there.
I don't know if it was actually touring or if it was like a one and done kind of a show, but I think it was the Hollywood Bowl, the video that's online. And there is a segment that, and this is from 1974, so 4 years after this movie came out, where Pufnstuf, you know, in the suit comes out with Jack Wilde. And Jack Wilde is like 21 years old by this point and looks like a young adult with long hair. And he lost, unfortunately, his childhood cuteness, innocence by this point.
I think we all did. We all do.
So this is pre-internet. So nobody even, you know, because the show is still in reruns at this point. So just imagine being a kid that's attending the show, waiting to see
the
Jimmy,
fact that this guy is and
not even realizing that the show is 5 years old at this point. You're like, that's not Jimmy. This is some man.
That's not Pufnstuf.
Time does that. Maybe a year passed and we lost the window for a season 2 or a sequel film to this.
Missed opportunity. We have 17 episodes in a movie. That's all we got. It's less than a Firefly.
But, you know, we didn't mention that Jack Wilde at the time was the youngest Oscar nominee that there was. Not for Pufnstuf,
I was going to say, wait, what?
He played the Artful Dodger in the film version of Oliver. And was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in 1969.
Well, he's got that to hang on his hat.
And this is the reason why Sid and Marty Krofft paid him $1 million to be in the Pufnstuf TV show.
That's a
The
chunk of change
unheard
for a
of
kid.
sum. The unheard of sum of $1 million.
Yeah.
And I might point out, being a Monkees fan, that the role of the Artful Dodger on Broadway was originated by Davy Jones
Ooh.
in 1964, 4 years before the film version starring Jack Wilde.
Just a font of information. Nice. I don't know. Have we exhausted?
I think we have. Are we ready for buckets for this?
Is it? Can I give it buckets?
If you give me the choice between watching the TV show and this, I'm going to take the TV show every time.
Yeah.
There's a whimsy about this, but it's too long. At 93, 94 minutes, it could have been like 60 easily, and
well, you've
not
got
lost
what,
anything.
7? You got 7 songs?
Yeah.
Easily.
Some of them are nice. Some of them are forgettable. I'm going to go 2.5 buckets just for nostalgia purposes.
I was going to go 3 just for nostalgia.
I would give the show like 4.5 buckets.
There you go.
I would go up
You're
there for the
going.
show.
Wow.
The movie, not so much.
Yeah.
The
It was
changes
fun.
that they made don't make any sense to me. I prefer my Pufnstuf in the TV show.
You're a purist, huh?
Yeah,
Is that what
yeah.
it comes down to? It was fun. Listen, I enjoyed it. Like I said, the missus didn't. She
didn't?
She was not appreciative of this at all. No, which is fair. It's free on Tubi.
I
The whole
also
show.
like
The whole show's on Tubi.
the whole show is not just the movie.
Yes, I believe all the episodes and the movie are both on. I have a potion to cause a commotion. She was everywhere in the 70s, though. She was in, well, we mentioned Lidsville, but she was all over. She was on Flintstone Comedy Hour. She was on the Bay City Rollers as Witchiepoo.
As Witchiepoo, we talked about this. There was on the Bay City Roller show that was also produced by the Sid and Marty Krofft team. And there were like little vignette shows that they would show on each episode of the Bay City Roller Show. And one of them was Horror Hotel, which had Witchiepoo. I think it had Seymour and Orson, and it had Charles Nelson Riley's character from Lidsville, not played by him, played by another actor. So all the bad guys from all their past shows ran this hotel, and it was called Horror Hotel. Not to be confused with Horror Express, starring Telly Savalas.
That's a completely different.
Yes, it is.
That's a monster in and of itself.
Blimey! I think he actually says blimey more than he says terrific in this film.
Terrific. There you go. Pufnstuf.
I felt like I've gotten that off my chest. I've wanted to talk that so
Okay.
long.
Fair
More
enough.
fun to talk about sometimes than it is to watch these things.
Yeah, right. But we did both. Yes, indeed.
So we have no Marvel show to talk about this week.
No, we don't. Nor do we have a confessional.
Nor do we have a confessional.
We came in ill prepared.
Do you people really, want to hear our answers to these confessionals? Should we drop this feature altogether? What should we do here?
That is a good question, because we do scramble sometimes to come up with questions.
But it is the
in
name.
the title of the show.
It is the name
Confessionals.
of the show.
Right.
You could see our reviews as our confessionals in their
It's
own way.
true. Listen, we have 180 episodes at this point, so I think we've confessed that.
Yeah, there's just so many
Yeah.
questions we can ask ourselves.
So here's a question: What are we watching next week?
That's always the question on our minds, isn't it?
Yes.
We are watching another new movie that we managed to find. Netflix. It's called Stowaway.
Well, Netflix keeps throwing this in my face. They do the top 10 now, and this is like
Yes.
number 7. And anytime I go to Netflix now, this is Stowaways here. You want to watch it? Fine, we'll watch it.
So that's what we're going to be watching next week.
And we're going to pair this up with a doozy.
Another sci-fi stowaway type story, Saturn III.
I know of this movie. I have never seen
I
it.
have never seen it either, but being avid readers of mags like Starlog, Fantastic Films, Famous Monsters.
I think even on the back of some of the comic books in the day promoted this just for that damn robot. Because that's, what is this, 70?
No, 80 this came out, 1980.
All right, so you're right in the heyday of all things Star Wars and
Alien. And I think
Alien.
this was really riding that bandwagon of sci-fi horror, because that's where this movie I think is leaning towards is a horror type. And I don't remember if this was rated R or not. Maybe that's why I never saw this.
it could be. I just did the iconic shot of the headless robot holding Farrah Fawcett, like she's hanging from it, like she's holding on to it, or it's holding on to her
Yeah,
arms or something.
I think the robot actually did make the cover of Famous Monsters, and I think I had that issue. Farrah Fawcett was another big
Oh yeah, that was her
draw
heyday.
of this
Yeah, heyday.
of this movie.
80s, yeah.
And talk about egregious age differences. Her romantic lead is Kirk Douglas. Even then,
He was 110 then.
and this also features Harvey Keitel.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh my, that's a hell of a pairing right there.
So
what is Stowaway? I don't even know what Stowaway's about, except for the fact that probably someone stows away on a spaceship.
Someone stows away on a spaceship, and that's the case of Saturn III as well. Just knowing the barest plot elements of both of them.
All right, so we got 2 stowaways.
We will see how well they tie together next week.
Most of our tie-ins are tenuous at best.
Yes, and as you heard, Christina was not with us this week. She's been recovering. She's been under the weather, but we're hoping that she will rejoin us soon, perhaps next week, perhaps later.
She doesn't want to talk Saturn III.
Yeah, once she hears what we're talking about, maybe she'll hold off.
Right now, she's like, yeah, no. So, but we do miss her. So
but we've got some big releases coming up. We've got Quiet Place 2 is finally going to see release.
Yes.
Memorial Day weekend that's planned for. So hopefully we'll be right there to talk about it.
April, May, June. What's coming in June? When is Black Widow actually?
Well, Loki,
July?
I think Loki is June.
Loki, but
and then Black Widow is July.
Now I want to go to McDonald's and get a Mayor McCheese.
I want those cookies. They don't make those anymore.
They
and they
do
were
not.
good.
I don't think they make the pies either.
I remember
those things like scald the roof of your mouth.
Those hot pies. I am a huge fan of the McDonald's hash brown, and thankfully they still do make those.
They do make those.
But no, the cookies were the highlight of the Happy Meal for me. Even more so than the toy. I wanted those cookies. Maybe they made them out of the same, like lard animal fat that they did the fries.
It probably makes sense. Yes. Ground up HR Pufnstuf.
Yeah, maybe that's where HR Pufnstuf on a spit ended up, is in those cookies.
In those cookies.
Yeah.
That's our lawsuit right there.
Soylent Pufnstuf. It's Pufnstuf. It's Pufnstuf.
On that note, we'll catch you next week, kids.
Bye.
Soylent Pufnstuf.
Hello, everybody. If you liked the podcast you just heard, then please follow TMI on all of our social media outlets. First and foremost, email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. That is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast2018. Step over, say hi, give us a compliment. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, which is also TMI_podcast2018.
And of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/TMI Podcast 2018. And it should be noted, we also have a community page, so join the forum.
And if you like to watch YouTube, you can see us at TMI Podcast 2018, all one word. Look for the popcorn bucket.
Popcorn bucket. Or you could just go to our website, which has every link there, TMIconfessionalspodcast.com. And we'll see you at the concession stand.
We'll save some popcorn for you.
Terrific.